Hey there, my name is Mason and I'm 56 years old. I own a luxury restaurant in the main area of the city. I've been running this restaurant for more than 23 years now. I've also invested in a few businesses that bring me profitable returns, but a major chunk of my income comes from a restaurant. I've been married twice. I married my first wife, Martha, 29 years ago, and we have a beautiful daughter, Danielle. We ended our marriage when Danielle turned 24. We faced our fair share of bumps that eventually led to a divorce, but Martha and I are still friends. Danielle often calls both of us to her house for Christmas and family get-togethers. 3 years after Martha and I ended our marriage, I married Beverly. Beverly and I met in my restaurant for the first time. She had recently divorced her husband and came all alone to my restaurant. I still remember she was sitting at one of the tables all by herself, drinking wine. A few minutes after she ordered food, she started crying, and I, being a good host, went up to her to check on her. She was already a little tipsy on the wine when I went up to her. That was the first time we met. "Hello, ma'am. Is everything all right?"
Please don't call me ma'am. It reminds me that I'm old. Call me Beverly.
"I'm sorry, Beverly. I'm Mason, the owner of this restaurant. I was working when I saw you crying. I just came here to check up on you. Is everything all right?"
No, it's not. Everything's falling apart.
"I know I'm a stranger, but you can talk to me about it if you want."
Everybody's a stranger to me nowadays. Even my ex-husband and my kids.
"Ex-husband and kids?"
Yes, I just divorced my husband and now I'm all alone. My kids live in other cities and they hardly have any time to call their mom.
"I feel like you're going through a really tough time. Mind if I sit with you? You can tell me all about the things that are bothering you. You can vent your heart out. It'll make you feel light."
Please sit. I don't want to sit all alone in this fancy restaurant of yours. I don't want people here to think I'm a lonely, miserable woman who doesn't have anyone to have dinner with.
"Don't worry, Beverly. I'm here. You can talk to me."
How can a marriage that lasted 20 years end just like that, in the blink of an eye?
"Well, from what I've experienced, it's never about the things that have happened recently. When a marriage ends, it's usually a collective effect of the things that have gone wrong over the years."
Easy for you to say. Wait a minute. What do you mean from your experience?
"Well, my wife and I just got divorced 2 years ago. We have a daughter who lives in another city with her husband, so I can understand how you're feeling right now."
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
"It's alright, I've moved on now."
How can you move on so easily? How long were you married?
"We were married for 25 years.
25 years?
Yes, 25 years. Let me tell you something. I know you feel like it's the end of the world, but trust me, as time goes by, it'll get better. You'll slowly move forward in life, leaving all your pain and sorrows behind."
Well, it definitely feels like it's the end of the world.
"I understand. I felt the same when my marriage ended. It feels lonely and cold. You spend so many years with the person, and then everything ends, just like that. But you need to be kind to yourself, especially in times like these."
Kind to myself.
"Yes, look, I know you feel like you're all alone, so the best thing you could do is to start loving your own company. Let's start right here, right now. You said you feel like it's the end of the world, right?
Yes.
Well, then let's say the world is ending in a few hours, and you have the liberty to have your favorite food and your favorite wine for one last time. What would you have?"
Let me think. I would have smoked salmon, some extra greasy meatballs, and ribeye steak.
"And what about wine?"
I don't know much about wine. Maybe a Chardonnay?
"Perfect. I'll tell the kitchen to get you these things, and don't worry about the check. It's on the house."
Oh no, Mason, please don't.
"I insist. Think of it as a welcome to the club free dinner pass."
No, Mason, it's all right. I wouldn't be able to finish all of it anyway.
"Don't worry. I'll join you for dinner. Remember the rule. Treat yourself nicely."
All right.
This was how we met. We had dinner together and we talked for hours. She told me how comfortable she felt with me, even though this was the first time we were meeting, and I felt the same about her. Maybe it was because we both knew how lonely it gets after a divorce. After we finished the last glass of our wine, I offered to drop Beverly off at her home, but she told me that I'd already done enough for her and she'd take a cab. We exchanged phone numbers before she went home. We started meeting at cafes and book clubs. She loved reading and so did I. After a few meetups, I asked her to go with me on an official date, and she agreed. We started dating and we dated for 1 year before we decided to get married. When I was married to Martha, she always told me I was a romantic, even though I loved reading romantic novels. So I decided to propose to Beverly the best way I could. One day I invited Beverly to my restaurant, and I set up stooges at other tables. There was a live performance by a band that we hired, and at the end of their act, the singer pretended to randomly call me on the stage and force me to sing. I sang Beverly's favorite love song, and the crowd started singing it with me. Beverly was surprised. She was just processing what was happening when I went up to her and proposed to her. Her face turned red. She said yes and hugged me. Everybody in the restaurant cheered. After a few months, we got married. We invited everyone to our wedding: Martha, Daniel, my son-in-law Russell, Beverly's kids, her parents, her ex-husband, and the neighbors. Everyone was so happy for us. 2 years after we got married, Beverly told me that we were going to have a child. She was pregnant. I was ecstatic. I was going to have a child. It was one of the happiest days of my life. 8 months later, Beverly and I organized a baby shower. We called our family members and the neighbors. During the baby shower, Russell came up to me and told me he wanted to have a word with me in private. He had a box in his hand which looked like a present. It was wrapped. We went inside the house away from the crowd. "What's the matter, Russell? Is everything all right?" Yeah, everything's good." "Where's Danielle? Is she all right?" "She's outside with Martha. I wanted to give you something." "What is it?" "Here, take this." "You called me here to give me a present?" Danielle was right. You do like to add flair to whatever you do. "It's not a gift, Mason." "What is it then?" "You'll soon find out. But please open it when you're all alone. Make sure there's no one around when you open this, all right?" "I'm a little confused." "I know you are. But promise me that you'll only open this when you're all alone." All right, I promise." "What is it?" "I can't tell you right now, but you'll soon figure it out for yourself." "Well, all right. Let's get back to the party, shall we?" "Yeah, sure, you go ahead. I'll be back in a minute." "All right." Russell went back to the party. I was confused about what had just happened. I went up to my room and hid the box in my wardrobe. I put it inside the pocket of a suit. I went back to the party, and after a few minutes, I forgot about it. We celebrated nicely. Everyone was having champagne and congratulating us. After the baby shower was over, everyone went back to their homes, and Beverly and I went to sleep. I had completely forgotten about the box Russell gave me by that time. We were so exhausted because of the baby shower celebration that we went straight back to sleep after dinner. Shortly after 20 days, Beverly gave birth to a baby boy. I was so happy. Beverly named him Ralph after her dad. All of our relatives came to see the baby and fell in love with him right away. He looked like an angel. Beverly and Ralph stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and then we brought Ralph home. We had already made a room for him. 2 months after Ralph was born, I was getting ready to go to the restaurant, and I picked out the same suit in which I had hid that box Russell gave me. I put on the suit, and I felt something in my pocket. I pulled the box out of my pocket, and I suddenly remembered everything. I remember how Russell told me to open the box when I was all alone, and Beverly was in another room with Ralph. So I put the box back in my pocket and went to the restaurant. I reached the restaurant and went straight to my cabin, where I used to keep records of the restaurant revenue and everything. I put the curtains on and locked the door. I pulled out the box and opened it. It had a DNA test kit and a note inside of it. The note said, "This might be of use in the future." I felt like this was a sick joke that Russell thought would be funny. Russell and we always had a formal relationship. He didn't even call me dad. I thought to myself, why would he give me this? What is he trying to say? But then one of the managers came and knocked on my cabin. I put everything in my drawer and opened the door. The manager told me that Beverly had come to the restaurant to meet me. I went out to meet Beverly. I was scared. I thought she must have seen me put the box back into my pocket when I was getting dressed. I went up to her and she was smiling. She told me that she was just around the corner with her friends, so she came to say hi, and she also brought donuts for me. I asked her about Ralph, and she told me that he was at home with the nurse we had hired, who also used to babysit Ralph. I sighed in relief. I told her that it was very sweet of her. I hugged her and she went back to her friends. And then I went to my everyday restaurant work. I came back home that night and I left the box in my cabin. I thought it would be safer if I just kept the box there, but I couldn't understand what it meant. Beverly and I went to bed that night and I couldn't sleep the whole night thinking about why Russell gave me a DNA test kit during the baby shower. After a few hours, I heard Beverly's phone ring and she woke up. She took her phone and went to the living room. After a few minutes, she came back, and I was pretending that I was sleeping. She came back to bed and slept. The next day, we were having breakfast when I asked Beverly about the phone call. "Did you get a phone call last night when we were sleeping?"
What phone call?
"I think I heard your phone ring when we were sleeping."
You must be dreaming, but I'll check. Where's my phone?
"It's right there, near the peanut butter."
Oh yeah, let me see. Nope, no calls.
"Oh, it must be a dream then."
You work so hard all day and get tired. You sleep like a log at night. Even if my phone rang, I doubt that you'd wake up.
Ha, that's true. All right then, honey. The breakfast was delicious. I'll go to the restaurant now.
Alright, bye. Love you.
I love you too. Bye. I went to the car and drove off to the restaurant. Beverly was acting shady. I clearly remembered that she got a call last night, and she went to the living room to talk to somebody. And now she's downright denying everything. Something was definitely fishy. I reached the restaurant and went to my cabin. I pulled out the box from the drawer, and I could get a hint now of why Russell gave me the box. Maybe Russell wanted to tell me that the baby wasn't mine and Beverly was cheating on me. I took the box and went back home. Beverly wasn't home. It was just the nurse and Ralph. I asked the nurse to tell me how to use the kit. The nurse looked at me weirdly. I told her that it was exactly what it seemed to be, and I would pay her extra to keep her mouth shut. She agreed. She opened the kit and swabbed the inside of Ralph's cheek to collect the DNA, and then she swabbed the inside of my cheek to collect my DNA. She collected both samples in the container provided in the kit and told me to send the samples to the laboratory. The address of the laboratory was mentioned in the instructions that came with the kit. I sent the samples to the lab and wrote the restaurant's address to send back the results. I couldn't risk giving the home address. Beverly spent more time at home than me. A month later, the results came in. I held the envelope in my hand, and I still remember. My hands were shivering. I was scared of opening the envelope. I mustered up all the courage in me and I opened the envelope to read the results. My heart shattered when I read the result. It said that the DNA samples didn't match. I wasn't Ralph's biological father. Beverly was cheating on me. I felt devastated. I felt like crying, but I didn't. I gathered myself and called Russell. I wanted to know how he knew that I wasn't Ralph's father. I called him and he picked up. "Russell? Hey Mason, how are you?" "Not good. I wanted to talk to you about something." "I already know what this is about. Go ahead." I opened the box and did the DNA test. I just got the results back, and it says that Ralph is not my son. How did you know about this?" "I didn't, but I did see Beverly going to a hotel with her ex-husband. Remember when we came for your wedding? And you introduced me to Beverly's ex-husband?" "Yes, I do." "Well, one of my college buddies lives in the city. After the wedding, Danielle went home and I decided to stay at my friend's place for a couple of days. One evening, we were heading to a bar when I saw Beverly get out of the car with her ex-husband and go to a hotel. I waited for half an hour, thinking that you would also arrive, but you never did. I went inside the hotel. I talked to the receptionist, but she refused to tell me anything about the hotel's guests. So I figured that maybe Beverly isn't the person we think she is." "You're right. I'm so sorry about everything, Mason. I feel bad for you. I'm devastated to know that I am not Ralph's dad and Beverly has been cheating on me. I can't possibly know how you feel, but I'm always there for you. If you need someone to talk to, feel free to call me, or better, come to the house." "Thanks, Russell. You're a good guy. I'm glad Danielle married you. Please don't tell anyone anything about this, not even Danielle. You have my word." "All right. I have to take care of some things. I'll call you later." "Take care, Mason." "You too." I finally understood everything. Now I know why Russell gave me the box and told me to open it when nobody was around. He wasn't sure if Beverly was cheating on me, and he couldn't say it to my face. I might have taken offense. He's a smart man, I give him that. I sat in my cabin all day. I told my manager that I was taking a day off and not to disturb me for the entire day. I couldn't wrap it around my head that Beverly was cheating on me after everything that had happened. And with her ex-husband, the guy who left her. All of these thoughts were killing me from the inside. At around 6 in the evening, I decided to go home and confront Beverly about everything. I left the restaurant and came back home. As soon as I entered, I saw Martha sitting on the couch, playing with Ralph, and Beverly was in the kitchen. I was angry, but seeing Martha playing with Ralph reminded me of how Martha used to take care of Danielle when she was just a baby. All of my anger suddenly vanished. I sat with her on the couch, and Martha gave Ralph to me. Shortly after, Beverly came and sat with us. Martha had come to meet Ralph. Unlike me, Martha never got married after the divorce, and she used to stay alone. She came to see Ralph. She told me Ralph reminded her of Danielle when she was a baby. The exact same thing I was thinking when I saw her playing with Ralph. After a few minutes, Martha told us she was leaving. I insisted that she have dinner with us, but she told us that her landlord went on a vacation with his family and was coming back in a few hours. They gave the key to Martha, so she needs to be there when they come home. And then she left. We had dinner, I put Ralph to sleep in his room, and then I told Beverly that I needed to talk to her. We went to the bedroom to talk, so Ralph wouldn't wake up from the noise. I know you're seeing your ex-husband behind my back.
What? What are you saying?
Just quit the act, Beverly, will you?
What are you talking about?
I am not Ralph's biological father. Here's the report. Our DNAs don't match.
When did you get this DNA test done?
The moment I noticed you've been acting shady. I know everything about you and your ex-husband, Beverly. So can we please skip the part where you scream at me, telling me that I am wrong and eventually you'll realize I know about everything?
I am sorry, Mason. I'm really sorry.
How long have you been seeing him?
Mason, please.
How long has it been?
It started a month before our marriage. He suddenly called me one day, and I told him that I was getting married. He told me that he wanted to meet, and I didn't tell you because I didn't know how you were going to react.
Why did you marry me, Beverly? You could have just said no.
My ex-husband is married to someone else. I knew we would never be together again, and I didn't want to live the rest of my life alone. I didn't want to lose you.
And you kept seeing him after we got married? How can you be so cold and insensitive? I tried being the best husband I could. I loved you with all my heart.
Please, Mason, I know. I'm sorry. I really am. I will never meet him again. Trust me.
That's the thing, Beverly. You just can't be trusted. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life with the woman I don't trust. I want a divorce.
No, please, don't do this. I beg you, please.
You cheated on me with your ex-husband. Do you hear it? Your ex-husband. There's nothing you can do now to make things right.
Mason, please, think about Ralph.
We'll let the court decide who Ralph gets to live with. I know I'm not Ralph's biological father, but I am his dad, and he'll always be my son.
He's my son as well. If we're not going to be together, Ralph is coming with me.
It's not for you to decide. We'll let the court decide what's good for Ralph, and you can stay here till our divorce is finalized. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for Ralph. Ralph needs his father and his mother both. After the court decides who Ralph goes with, you'll have to move out of my house.
Mason, please.
That's it. I filed for the divorce the next day. We had a couple of hearings and some of them got ugly. After a few months, Beverly moved out of the house and went back to her parents' home. Her parents lived in the city. She left Ralph with me. Our divorce procedure went on for a year and finally, the divorce was finalized. What I didn't see coming was that the court ruled that Ralph was too young to live without his mother. So the court decided that he would stay with Beverly. Beverly was extremely happy to hear that Ralph would live with her, and I was heartbroken to hear this. The court allowed me weekly visits to meet Ralph. I could file for Ralph's custody again after he was a little older. But by then, I would have missed all of his precious baby moments, his first words, his first walk, and everything. I felt crushed thinking about all this. After the divorce's final hearing, Beverly and his dad came and took Ralph to their home. Watching Ralph go made me cry. I stopped going to the restaurant for the next 5 days. All I did was sit at home and look at pictures of Ralph and Danielle when she was a baby. Not being there for Ralph was crushing me from the inside. I felt like how I felt when Martha and I divorced. I felt all alone, and the world felt so cold. I missed Ralph. It was only 3 days after the hearing that Russell and Danielle came to visit me. Danielle hugged me and told me to come live with her for a few days. Russell also insisted, but I denied it. I didn't want to be a burden to them. They had their lives, and I didn't want to bring my pain and sorrow to their world. Danielle told me that I can't just stay in the home like this all day. She told me to go to the restaurant, visit some friends, or take a time out to go on vacation. She reminded me of the principle, treat yourself nicely, that I used to tell her whenever she got upset when she was a kid. Hearing my daughter say these things to me made me realize how much she's grown. She wasn't the little Danielle that I used to pick up after school. She was now a grown woman who came here to console her old dad. I hugged her and promised her that I would take care of myself. They stayed with me for 2 days and then they left. After they left, I started going to the restaurant to work. I went to meet my friends and I did everything that I could to keep my mind occupied, but I was still missing Ralph. After a dark time, joy returned to me when one day I heard a knock on my door. I opened the door and it was Beverly's dad, and he had Ralph with him. I invited him in, but he refused to come in. He apologized to me for what his daughter did and gave Ralph to me. Before I could ask anything, he gave me a letter and told me it was from Beverly, and he left. I was confused. I played with Ralph for a few minutes, and then I put him to sleep in his room. I opened the letter, and I was shocked to see what was written in it. It was something like,
Dear Mason, I know what I've done to you is unforgivable, and I don't deserve to be with a good man like you, but Ralph needs his dad. All this time I lived with Ralph in my parents' home made me realize that I was incapable of raising Ralph alone. I don't have a job and my parents have grown too old to help me with it, and I know you can never forgive me for the wrongs I did, so I've decided to exit both of your lives for the better. You're a good man, Mason, and I know you love Ralph. I know you're going to raise him right. I am leaving the city and I don't know what I'll do from now on, but it's time that I figure out my life. It's time that I take charge of my life. Ralph will stay with you. You deserve to be with him more than I do. I went to my ex-husband and told him about Ralph. He dismissed the idea of raising Ralph right away. That's when I realized you're the only one who could raise Ralph right. I told his wife everything about him and me, and they'll probably get a divorce now. And there's going to be nobody like you to tell him to treat himself nicely when he feels lonely and cold. Serves him right. I'm sorry for everything I did to you. I deserve to suffer, and I'll suffer. But I'll always love you and Ralph with all my heart. Just do me one last favor and tell Ralph about his mom when he's older. One thing I've learned about life is that it's uncertain. If I am to never return, please tell Ralph about how we met and how we fell in love. He should know that his father is a great romantic. I know you'll raise him right. With love, Beverly.
Beverly was gone and she gave me the responsibility of raising Ralph. All of my sadness vanished when I realized that Ralph was going to live with me from now on. But to be honest, after I read the letter, I did feel bad for Beverly. But I was relieved that she realized her mistakes and understood that she was not able to raise Ralph all by herself. But Ralph still needed a mother figure in his life, in case Beverly never came back. I called Martha and told her everything that had happened. I also asked her to be Ralph's godmother, and Martha happily agreed. She told me she would help me all the way to raise Ralph. Even if someday Beverly was back, Martha would always be his godmother. Martha was on cloud 9 when I asked her to be Ralph's godmother. I guess Martha and I needed Ralph to be in our lives more than Ralph needed us. Ralph is a beacon of our lives, showing us the way to joy and happiness. It has been 2 years since Beverly left, and she hasn't come back. Ralph is too young to understand anything right now. He still thinks that Martha is his mother, and I would tell him someday about Beverly. I sometimes wonder about Beverly, and I hope wherever she is, she's okay. I hope she takes this time to become a better person. Martha comes home almost every day after work for a few hours to meet Ralph. Danielle and Russell also come more often than before to meet Ralph and me. I feel like my old family has reunited, with more joy in our lives than ever. And all of this is because of Ralph. We're not biologically related, but Ralph will always be my son, and there's nobody in the world who can tell me any different. There have been a lot of ups and downs in life, but now I realize that everything happens for a reason. Looking at Ralph, Martha, Danielle, and Russell together sometimes makes me wonder that maybe this was all part of a greater plan, to give us the happiness we never thought we'd get. And I'm glad that every day I come back home from work, I see Ralph. After all, it's always lovely to see someone waiting for you when you come back home.